1923, driven by Don Wage right here.
Okay. Woo! Actually, we're going to
We have a 1928 Model A, driven by David Rourke here.
Woo! Yeah!
And accompanied by my grandson Kane.
Woo! Okay. Woo!
Yeah, there's 4 generations of one family.
Oh, nice.
Another 1928 Model A, driven, where is Carmen? Yeah, 28, right? Yeah. 30. Okay,
No.
who's on the 28?
Charlie's got the
Charlie.
28.
Oh, where's Charlie? Charlie. Well, Charlie boiled up. Another 28.
Okay. Woo!
We're going up in age. So the oldest one is 100 years old. The last one is a mere 92. So the 1930 Model A is driven by Carmen Tufts.
Okay, co-pilot.
That's important too. And the 1931, our youngest car, driven jointly by David Allenson and John Oliver. So this is called the Pine to Prairie Relic Run. And the idea is we're driving from the pines that are at the Ontario border with Manitoba to the prairies at the Saskatchewan border with Manitoba, and we're following as best we can the original route of the Trans-Canada Highway, which is quite different than the route today. There's a few places where they coincide. So for example, we've just had a rather harrowing experience on the modern highway, but by and large, as much as we can, we're sticking to the original highway. So for example, when we head west, we're actually going to go out and cross over the modern highway, but go straight west from the Petro-Canada over there, west about 6 miles, and then south, and eventually we're going to link up with Highway 351 and go through Carberry, back up to the Trans-Canada, down the present-day highway for a little while into Brandon. Once we get out of Brandon tomorrow, our plan is to get to Brandon tonight, and tomorrow, west of Brandon, the route is pretty much completely different. Because instead of going straight to the northwest, it zigzags. It goes a few miles west, a mile north, a few miles west, a few miles north, and zigzagging all the way, but more or less ending up the same place. It will be a little bit southwest of Kirkella when we get to the Saskatchewan border tomorrow afternoon. And the purpose of this, well, twofold, I suppose. One is to see if it can be done, if these old fellows are up to the task. And by old fellows, I mean the cars. The other, and by the way, the one that is showing it the best results so far is the oldest car, the 1923. That old boy is just popping right along. The other objective, though, is to raise funds for the museum here. Of course, as I think most of you know, the tree planting car was acquired last November. A historic car that was responsible for millions of trees being planted all over the prairies. You see a shelter belt somewhere, it's a very good likelihood that it exists because of the tree planting car. And it traveled over much of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. It even ventured a little bit into British Columbia, which I always think of as being coal to Newcastle, advocating for trees. And over 50 years, it traveled the prairies. And then for the last 50 years, it was sitting in the sandy lands, where it was part of a museum for forestry. They had to move it, so last November, they picked it up, 2 enormous cranes, picked it up and set it on a high-tech trailer that then brought it here to the museum. Then those same cranes came and lifted it up and set it on some brand new tracks that were set up by the museum volunteers. So, all well and good. And in time, we're going to develop that car to be an exhibit on the history of tree planting on the prairies. It's an important part, not just of the history of Manitoba as a whole, but agriculture specifically, because what farm doesn't have a shelter belt, right? So that's the purpose, but in the short term, we have to put a roof over the car. You know, it's old, it's 100 years old, it needs a roof to protect it from the snow, the rain, the burning sun, and so that's the other purpose of the Relic Run, is to raise funds. And so far, I think it's safe to say, Diane, we have over $2,000?
Yes, at least.
We've raised at least $2,000 so far. We are taking donations, so if anyone here feels inspired, we would happily accept donations. We are also selling books, and I have some books for you.
Okay, great.
We have 3 books, 4 books actually. Sorry. One of them is a history of the tree planting car. So if you want to know more about it, you can buy a book. We actually are going to be selling them in the gift shop here as a fundraiser for the roof over the tree planting car. We also have a book on the history of the Trans-Canada Highway. It was a part of a 2-book set. One went west to the Pacific Ocean, the other went east to the Atlantic Ocean. The Pacific book's out of print now, but we have copies of the Atlantic book.
Author.
Yes, indeed. I should give credit where credit is due. Clint was the inspiration for the Relic run. Because when I got his book, it was like, wow, wouldn't it be cool to drive this old route in an old car? And so, Clint, I mean, kudos to you.
Thank you, thank you. I just wasn't sure you recognized me in my current state.
Well, I don't recognize me in my current state. A little shaggier than you probably saw me last time. The 3rd book is my Abandoned Manitoba book, which, by the way, will be coming out, is the 3rd volume in October. And the 4th book is a book on alternative farming practices by our very own David Rourke. And all of the authors have agreed to donate their royalties to the fundraising project. So you are doing good work, but you get a wonderful book and you benefit the fundraising program. So
If you buy one today, you might get it autographed.
that's right. You brought your rain gear too, did you, Clint? So you can...
Well, this is it, so I'm good.
Okay, good. You're going to go with us to Carberry?
I would like to. If I
That would be wonderful. Absolutely. Good.
Good.
Well, that's what we're here for. We won't be here terribly long. Unfortunately, we're running a little behind because everybody wants to stop and talk about the cars. We actually, when we were in Portage, we went through the drive-through. And I bet you it's the first time they ever had a Model A go through the drive-through.
And we maybe should have a new motto. We're not fast, but we're slow.
Life in the slow lane.
That's really funny. Okay, well, let's get a picture with the drivers.
Yes.
Maybe all on that side. If the rest of you could come to this side.